of the country's debt management strategy. Kumasi Technical University has unveiled an electric vehicle fitted with regenerative braking technology. This marks a significant step in locally driven innovation in sustainable transport. The 5-seater vehicle named Nimdie was developed within 6 months by 3 final year students as part of their Bachelor of Technology in Automotive Engineering program. The Minister for Trade, Agribusiness and Industry of the Republic of Ghana, Elizabeth Fusojari, held a bilateral meeting with the ambassador of Burkina Faso and the leader of his delegation on the sidelines of the 14th Ministerial Conference of the World Trade Organization in Cameroon. In attendance were the chairman and ranking member of Ghana's Parliamentary Select Committee on Trade and Tourism, as well as representatives from relevant ministries, departments and agencies from both countries. Finally, the Accra High Court has told lawyers of defunct Men's Gold Chief Executive Nana Appiah-Mensah, also known as NAM1, that his evidence will be taken via electronic means. The court acknowledged receipt of a doctor's note preventing NAM1 from physically exerting himself. Nana Appiah-Mensah is facing multiple counts of defrauding by false pretense, operating a gold firm without license, and money laundering. Finally, when Ghana face Germany tonight, it is more than just another international friendly. As you would know, it's a fixture layered with history, connection, and for Ghana, a catalogue of difficult memories. And here on 3FM, we'll be streaming that live for you to listen, and also on all our social media platforms, on TV3, on 3FM. Grace, over to you.
Thank you, Christabel, for the news summaries. Let's now get into the details of the bulletin. This is Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. Let's begin from that building collapse at Accra New Town. And this time, the Ghana Institute of Safety and Environmental Professionals is calling for an independent investigation into the building collapse at Accra New Town that's killed 3 people and injured about 20 others. The structure, an uncompleted building being used as a school, has raised concerns about safety, compliance, and the use of unfinished facilities for public activities. In a statement, GISEP says the probe must establish the cause of the collapse, assess compliance with national building regulations, and examine the role of relevant metropolitan, municipal, and district assemblies. The institute insists any negligence or regulatory breaches must attract sanctions. The group is also urging the Ministry of Works and Housing and local assemblies to conduct urgent structural audits of uncompleted buildings being used for schools, churches, and commercial purposes. In further calls for strict enforcement of building regulations, stressing that no facility should be occupied without certification by qualified structural engineers. The institute adds that the incident highlights the urgent need to pass the Occupational Safety and Health Bill to strengthen safety standards and accountability. We're working the phone to quickly connect with Engineer Dr. Mrs. Miriam Ejiofor. She's National President, Ghana Institute of Safety and Environmental Professionals. We're not able to connect with her. We'll find out what they call is and what exactly they're looking for and how urgent all of this should be and why people are able to inhabit these structures without a proper certification. And so the institute is once again calling for an independent investigation into the building collapse at Accra New Town that killed 3 people and injured about 20 others. The structure, an uncompleted building being used as a school, has raised concerns about safety, compliance, and the use of unfinished facilities for public activities. In a statement, GISEP says the probe must establish the cause of the collapse, assess compliance with national building regulations, and examine the role of relevant metropolitan, municipal, and district assemblies. The institute insists any negligence or regulatory breaches must attract sanctions. The group is also urging the Ministry of Works and Housing and local assemblies to conduct urgent structural audits of uncompleted buildings being used for schools, churches, and commercial purposes. It further calls for strict enforcement of building regulations, stressing that no facility should be occupied without certification by qualified structural engineers. The institute asks that the incident highlights the urgent need to pass the Occupational Safety and Health Bill to strengthen safety standards and accountability. We'll bring in the engineer Edifo when we're able to connect with her shortly. But this is Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. Earlier, the Vice President, Professor Nana Asiedu-Dartey, visited the scene to have first-hand information on the incident. She also visited the victims currently on admission in various health facilities. Meanwhile, pupils of the Accra New Town Experimental 1A and B primary school say the lack of adequate school desks has made it impossible for them to move into a newly renovated classroom block. The situation forced them to continue using an abandoned 3-story building which collapsed on Sunday, March 29. Speaking to 3 News, some of the pupils revealed that the last time they studied in the now collapsed building was on Saturday, March 28, as they prepared for their final BC examination. They spoke with Joseph Armstrong Gold Alagbe. We can listen to the students now. Right, while we're waiting for that, let's listen to the Vice President once we said the scene, and then we'll hear from the students shortly.
The collapsed building at New Town on Sunday killed 3 people and left several others injured. On Monday, the Vice President, Professor Nana Asiedu-Dartey, was at the accident scene to get first-hand information. She was accompanied by the Interior Minister, Muntaka Mohammed Mubarak. The Vice President at the scene queried who authorized the putting up of the building and stressed the need for the wrong to be condemned. She further emphasized the need for strict adherence to building regulations, warning that negligence in construction must not be tolerated.
Who approved all of this? It was 2012. It doesn't matter when it's done. If it is wrong, it is wrong.
Professor Nana Asiedu-Dartey also visited survivors receiving treatment at the 37 Military Hospital, the Police Hospital, and the University of Ghana Medical Center. She interacted with the injured and medical staff and wished the victims a speedy recovery and commended health workers for their dedication and swift response in attending to the casualties. Meanwhile, authorities say they have launched investigations into the incident to establish the exact cause of the collapse.
Evelyn Tengmes reports there. Let's listen to that report also from Joseph Armstrong when he visited the scene.
Panic and confusion gripped Accra New Town on Sunday afternoon after a multi-story school building suddenly collapsed, burying worshippers and other occupants under heaps of concrete and twisted metal. Witnesses say the incident happened around 1 p.m., sending shockwaves through the densely populated community as screams for help filled the air.
They're too happy for here right now, because like we need to attention before I hear the thing. Since I build the bridge for the Rabo down here, because here is school. What I say. So now how the thing there, people they inside will plenty. If you check what they do for inside, you get me. If you check what they do for inside, but still people they inside where they feel they don't feel come out them yet. But right now they come out somewhere right now. If you see like, because I not busy, you know feel what safe. But God grace, we did talk small with the drum.
Within minutes, rescue teams, including emergency personnel and community volunteers, rushed to the scene to begin a desperate search for survivors. Residents joined in the effort, using their bare hands and simple tools to remove debris before heavy equipment was later brought in to support the operation. Video and eyewitness accounts from the scene showed rescuers carefully pulling victims from the rubble, while anxious relatives and residents gathered nearby hoping for good news. Some survivors were rescued alive and rushed for medical attention as the operation intensified into the evening.
Out of the 23, the total number of females among them are 14, 15, with 8 being male. Out of these, we have minors that are 7, but those who have lost their life, there's no minor among the dead. All of them are adults, which is very unfortunate. And the rest are coping very well. But some of them were being discharged, and we insisted that look, just make sure that nobody goes home and later have other challenges. So it's just too unfortunate. And we've seen what we've tried to do. We brought in the police canine dogs, and then we brought in the narcotics control commission's canine dogs, and then the military. And we made sure that they went through one after the other, and to be sure that there's no resemblance of some other persons trapped in there. So for now, at least with what the dogs have done, with what the military have cross-checked, we can say with some maybe 90 to 95% certainty that we don't have any other persons in. So meaning that largely, in terms of rescue, we may say the rescue is coming to an end, but they will have to continue with the collection of the debris.
But amid the rescue came tragedy. Reports indicate that at least 3 people lost their lives in the collapse, although officials are expected to confirm the final casualty figures after a full head count and search of the debris.
Sarah Penkos reports there. Let's move on and do some other stories. Tonight, the Ghana Coalition Against Galamsey is raising concern over what it describes as a worsening fight against illegal mining and is calling on President Mahama to take urgent action. In a statement, the coalition said although early government efforts showed some progress, the overall situation remains largely unchanged. It's one that growing impunity among some enforcement agencies and officials is worsening the crisis, threatening forests, rivers, and public health. According to the coalition, the number of forest reserves affected by illegal mining has increased from 45 to at least 50, covering more than 9,000 hectares. Let's speak to Aula Sewa, a leading member of the coalition and also founder Eco-Conscious Citizens. Aula, thank you for your time tonight. We know that you are at the Jubilee House to meet the president for that all-important conversation on illegal mining. Before we get into that, you say the fight against illegal mining is worsening. What specific failures by government or enforcement agencies are driving this decline?
Well, I think we should all look at the situation on the ground. Our water bodies are still being poisoned. There are still champions in our water bodies. There are Congo and other rivers are still diverted. And as you know, water is a human rights issue. So we need to be very careful about what is going on. And we do know that miners is doing its best, but it's not adequately resourced to do the work that it needs to do. It's doing a brilliant job with the resources it has. But we need the political will to see an end to the illegal mining. We need to properly resource NAMO so that they can do their job. Because as I've just said, water is a human rights issue. Then we know that Joy did a brilliant expose on the Amansay district where Chanfans, one could pay and one could, use one's Chanfans, which are banned. The MCE is still at post. And what we are saying is that BCEs, MCEs, people in high positions who are either involved, lax or complicit in illegal mining should be held accountable. So these are the things that we are looking at and seeing that there doesn't seem to be the political will to deal with this impending catastrophe, because we are on the verge of an ecological catastrophe. The clock is ticking. CAS has told us about the number of kidney disease problems. And whilst we are at it, we are also asking for the Forestry Commission to be better equipped. They need bulletproof vests for the resource guards. 2 have been shot. 1 has been killed. 1 is in hospital. So the political will means enforcing the duty bearers. And we are asking for EI 144, which declassifies parts of Achimota Forest, to be repealed. You know, our forest reserves are being decimated. So this is not the time to go and declassify the last remaining forest reserve in Accra, the lands of Accra. And we're also looking at Atiwa Forest Reserve, where 3 waters take their source. Atiwa Forest Reserve needs to be protected. It's under siege.
The bit about Atiwa Forest, I was going to ask you that we know there's some form of protection going on in that area. Does the coalition have evidence that there's still illegal mining happening there?
I was in Chibi a few days ago. They have not had water since September because of the turbidity levels of the water. According to them, Ghana Water says they cannot supply them with water, according to them, since September. And that's because of the legal mining taking place. And that is why we are asking for Atiwa Forest Reserve to be declared a national park, that will give it the protection it needs. It's a very serious situation. 3 rivers take their source from Akwa Forest Reserve. There is illegal mining going on there. And because of the illegal mining, the turbidity levels are high, and Ghana Water cannot supply water to them. And as I've said, water is a human rights issue. So that's a very serious matter.
Right, Aula, the coalition is calling for urgent action from President Mahama. We know you're meeting him tonight, probably. What immediate steps do you expect the president to take within the next few weeks? What will be the talking point of the meeting tonight?
Well, I mean, there are lots of things we'd like him to take. Revoking EI 144, he can do that immediately. Declaring Akwa Forest Reserve National Park, he can do that immediately. But water is life. We need our water to be tested, not just for turbidity levels, but also for the heavy metals and the chemicals. And we need the results to be published every week. You know, a while back, we used to publish the levels of the Akosombo Dam. This is a very serious matter. Our water is being poisoned. So we need Ghanaians to know what is happening by publishing the water results every week so that everybody is on notice about the water. And we want, as a matter of immediate effect, for NAMOS to be properly resourced. Call the head of NAMOS, ask him what he needs, supply it, and then there will be key performance indicators. With these resources, I can do this by this date, within 3 months, within 6 months. Let's be reminded that in opposition, we were told that the past president was commander-in-chief of the armed forces, and that if he wanted to stop illegal mining, he could do it easily. Now we are told that actually it's a marathon and not a sprint. But be that as it may, we believe that if we put all our resources at tackling this matter, it can be solved. Why can't the Navy, NAMOS, go onto our water bodies and remove the chanfans and do good to the diverted waters? It can be done immediately. Why are our waters still diverted? Why are chanfans still on our water bodies? We need the political will to solve this matter. The president admitted that some of his own appointees or persons close to him may be involved. It's good that he has had the courage to say this, but we have to go beyond this. If they are involved, you need to hold them accountable, because Ghanaians are dying. I keep on saying that we're on the verge of an ecological catastrophe. We need to act yesterday. The next best step is now. And it's not difficult. It's not difficult. You can't tell me that the full force of the Ghana Armed Forces cannot defeat the environmental terrorists if the political will is there.
Right.
The battle can be won easily. Thank you.
Before I let you go, beyond criticism and all the pressure you're giving to government as a CSO, a coalition, what practical solutions or partnership can the coalition propose to help government effectively tackle Galamsey?
Well, I think that what we are doing is not just criticisms. We are all Ghanaians and we are trying to safeguard Ghana. So it's not a question of criticism. We have commended the government for repealing LI 2462, which allowed mining in forest reserves. We have commended them for that. Right now, we've talked about Gemma, a place in the Western North region where there's no illegal mining. It's led by a visionary chief and Father JB, a fantastic community champion. We have said, learn from them. How come they have been able to stop illegal mining? They are into cooperative farming and doing very well. Learn from them. Then we've talked about Atronsu, where the community wants to work with the government to fight illegal mining. But it is astonishing that the activists, the environmental activists, have been charged. They are being charged and prosecuted, whilst persons involved in illegal mining are walking free. So we are saying that instead of prosecuting activists like the Atronsu fight, we work with them and learn from Gemma. It's a brilliant example of how communities can come together, patrol, and stop illegal mining from taking place. So these are suggestions we have. Learn from somewhere where it's working, Gemma, and work with the communities like Atronsu, where the people understand the devastation illegal mining is causing and want to stop it. Work with them, not prosecute them.
Right, Aula, thank you so much for your time. We'll be on standby for that update or outcome of the meeting with the president tonight, even as we try and find a way forward in fighting illegal mining, also known as Galamsey, in the country. We've been speaking with Aula Sewa. She is co-founder of Eco-Conscious Citizens. They are meeting President Mahama tonight on possible ways of fighting illegal mining, because they say most of the efforts government has put in place has not yielded the desired results when it comes to fighting galamsey. While at that, let's also take a trip and go to Parliament, because there were heated exchanges at the Public Accounts Committee when a former director of procurement for the Agric Ministry disclosed some party people hijacked warehouses after the 2024 elections, making the supply of rice difficult. An attempt by a member of the committee, Edem Agbana, to seek clarity caused a boiling moment despite interventions by the Deputy Agric Minister and other committee members. Meanwhile, the Deputy Finance Minister says one of the companies cited for infractions has refunded about 19 million cedis after the special audit report. Let's quickly listen to how it ensued there. We'll bring you that audio.
As a usual business at the Public Accounts Committee sitting on Monday, where infractions like payment irregularities as well as lack of supporting document for contract were interrogated. A former director of procurement at the Agric Ministry disclosed that a company paid to supply rice was refused access to some warehouses by a group of individuals. She initially termed them as party people who took over those facilities after the 2024 elections.
Initially, the party people prevented him, and subsequently, the supplier owned his agent, so they didn't give him access to continue the transportation.
When was this? When was this done?
That is after the election.
After the election?
Yeah, we have to get the military to even intervene, but still.
The term party people was explained as the agent as well as other third parties who were involved in the deal. However, that was not satisfactory enough.
She should be able to expatiate. Tell us, which party people, what activities did they engage in?
Honorable Edem, I think that the beginning of this conversation, we were talking about the parties involved. And so in her submission, she just said some party people took over the warehouse, not necessarily political party people taking over the warehouse.
The situation got worse with heated exchanges from all sides of the committee, with many urging Edem Agbana to let things slide.
The woman was very, very clear.
What your deputy ranking has said. The answer is contradictory to what the deputy ranking.
Respectfully, young man, honorable MP, please, your chairman has spoken. I think we should end it. You are not more party-like than your chairman who is here taking over the affairs of what we are doing. Respectfully.
Madam Chair, respectfully, I take strong exception to that statement.
Respectfully.
I asked the question because this is a committee of Parliament. Parliament is a house of records.
Take over and do what is expected. Please.
With tempers flying high, the chairman of the committee exerted his authority and directed immediate ceasefire.
Okay, quiet. I'm in charge here. Quiet. Why can't you guys show a little bit of respect to me? What do you mean?
Madam, what you said has brought some controversy. The rice is there.
Yes.
They prevented you at that time to go and access the rice.
Yes.
Can you have access to it now?
No.
Why not?
The agent is still not giving us access.
The agent, identified as Sika Krobia Limited, together with the supplier, has been summoned to appear before the committee on Thursday. Meanwhile, another company that was overpaid for the supply of grains, identified as Rance Logistics, has refunded some 19 million cedis to the state.
Kushan Yales reports from Parliament. Let's just stay in Parliament. This time, the absence of women on Parliament's Committee on Constitutional and Legal Affairs is drawing criticism, with some Ghanaians describing it as a setback for gender inclusion. The concern follows the recent reconstitution of committees under the 9th Parliament after new standing orders were adopted. Notably, all 17 members appointed to the Constitutional and Legal Affairs Committee are men. The committee plays a critical role in Ghana's governance architecture. It is responsible for scrutinizing constitutional and legal issues, overseeing the Office of the Attorney General and the Ministry of Justice, and examining proposed legislation as well as the work of agencies under its mandate. For many observers, the lack of female representation on such a key committee raises broader questions about inclusivity and balance in parliamentary decision-making. Let's go on the phone now. Samuel Bain is Executive Director, Parliamentary Network Africa. He's joining us for a conversation. Mr. Bain, thank you for your time tonight. How significant is this committee in shaping Ghana's legal and constitutional direction?
Well, the Constitutional and Legal Committee of Ghana's Parliament, as you have just described, has the responsibilities of dealing with matters of legislation that has constitutional and legal parts to it. So, for example, we know that legislation that was adopted in it was a committee that was leveraged in the legal education arrangement. We know that it's a committee that matters relating to the proper sexual rights bill has been referred to, and many other bills that get referred to in Parliament, including some other non-legislative responsibilities that could the committee. So it's one of the busy committees, one of the important committees in Parliament.
And the absence of women on this committee, does it affect the quality or balance of deliberations on such a committee?
Obviously, I mean, the lack of representation, proper representation in any constituted group robs the group of the benefit of, the added views and opinions that those other representative groups could bring. In this case, women members of Parliament. But honestly, this is really not very new. There's been many instances of many parliamentary committees in Parliament over the years that lack women representation, purely because of how the committee systems and allocation of members onto the committee are done. You know that at the moment we have a little over 14% of members of Parliament being women MPs. And the standing orders of Ghana's Parliament talks about how one MP cannot be on a certain number of committees, depending on whether you are, in leadership or whether you're a backbencher. And so when you use that kind of calculation to be able to do committee allocation for any group of people that have limited numbers, then you certainly will have them not represented very well on these committees. So it starts from even the number of women that we have elected to Parliament in the first place. The more we have less women MPs elected to Parliament, the more we get instances such as this, which is very, very unfortunate. And I think that this latest issue about the Constitutional and Legal Affairs Committee is an example of reality staring us in the face of how such important conversations are done without women at the table, simply because members of Parliament, members in the Ghana's Parliament have limited number of women MPs, and so when these sharing are taking place, it doesn't get to them in that regard. The same happens to even women who are leading parliamentary committees, very few. The same happens to opportunities given to the women MPs who are in Parliament to make statements, to ask questions on the floor of Parliament, and to contribute generally. And I think these issues certainly must be looked at, and Parliament, as the institution that passed the affirmative action law, must take a second look at its own practices, its own procedures, its own arrangements. That seeks to create the impression that the institution that passed the law is itself not really doing much to ensure that the law gets enforced.
And so these committees in Parliament and their representation or membership, are there existing parliamentary guidelines on gender representation in these committees?
There are no direct gender representation guidelines, except to say that parliamentary committees are formed based on specific demographic numbers. So let me give an example. The minority in Parliament currently makes up about a third of the membership of Ghana's Parliament, with the majority making up about 2/3, right? What that means is that in every committee, there must be 2/3 of the membership of the committee being members from the majority side, while 1/3 are members from the minority side. Now, if you consider the fact that the 2/3 and 1/3 arrangement means that only a certain fraction of the members who belong to both sides of the aisle will be able to get the female members who belong to both sides of the aisle, will be able to get a seat on specific committees. And considering the fact that MPs have a limit on the number of committees they can be on, the fact that we have just about 41 women members of parliament means that there is a limit to how many of these women members of parliament can be shared on the almost 40 committees of parliament that exist. So the fundamental issue is the number of women that we give opportunities to be able to become members of parliament. And I think that is a big situation. The numbers have always been bad in Ghana's parliament, and we need to start looking at the benefit and the importance that women bring to such seats and ensuring that they get a seat at the table as regular.
So the comments on social media and all the criticism that have come, how should the House of Parliament manage this subsequently?
Well, it should be a very important opportunity for Parliament to reflect, for Parliament to ask itself the very hard question, and to say that within the limitations of not having enough members of Parliament who are women, what efforts can Parliament make to ensure that it is being seen as an institution that promotes the tenets of the law that is passed by itself? So if the Affirmative Action Bill talks about 30% women representation, then we ask ourselves the bit about how are we going to be able to ensure that we can have those representation going forward with our members of Parliament. How are we ensuring that leadership of committees? How are we ensuring that membership of committees? How are we ensuring that leadership even in the front bench of Parliament are all reflecting these kinds of dynamics? So Parliament has a lot of work to do. Maybe Parliament may not necessarily have noticed what the public sentiments are around these matters, but with this issue coming up, perhaps it will give Parliament a wake-up call to realize that the public are not very happy with the situation as it currently is, and also help us as members of the public to reflect on ways in which we can ensure that better women representation in Parliament and parliamentary work happen going forward.
Right. And maybe my final one to you, some have gone to the extent of pushing for the committee to be reconstituted. Do you agree with such a call?
Well, you see, by the very nature of how Parliament works and the way in which the standing order calls for the constitution of parliamentary committees, the point I'm making is that once there is limited number of women MPs in Parliament, it certainly would limit the number of women who get seats on specific parliamentary committees.
Right.
And so, yes, if parliamentary committees get reconstituted, what we can achieve is that we may probably have a woman or two women on the Constitutional and Legal Affairs Committee, but that would mean that another committee of Parliament would have to have the women on there taking off just to be able to give room for these women for the Constitutional and Legal Affairs Committee. And I don't think that that's what we want to be achieving in this particular process. We need to think about the issue holistically and look for a long-term solution to all of these issues of, lack of women representation at places that matter.
And for you, the bottom line is getting more women MPs so that when it comes to finding members for these committees, we don't have women missing. That's the bottom line.
Absolutely.
Right.
Without getting more women MPs in Parliament, we'll have these issues over and over again, unfortunately.
All right. So, Sami Obin, thank you for your time tonight. Sami Obin, Executive Director of Parliamentary Affairs Africa, talking to us about some issues coming out of Parliament. Let's go back to our earlier story on the collapse of the building at Accra New Town, where the Ghana Institute of Safety and Environmental Professionals is calling for an independent investigation into the building collapse at Accra New Town that killed 3 people and injured about 20 others. Among other things, the institute says that stricter enforcement of building regulations, stressing that no facility should be occupied without certification by qualified structural engineers. Let's go on the phone and talk to engineer Dr. Mrs. Miriam Edufo. She is national president, the Ghana Institute of Safety and Environmental Professionals. Doc, thank you for your time tonight. Even before we get into details of your statement earlier today, the GES closed down the school as a precautionary measure. Was that the right thing to do given present circumstances?
Please, are you saying that the school has been closed as a precautionary measure?
Measure by the Ghana Education Service.
Yes, because it didn't follow their standards. And it's one of the ways we can save lives.
So you think it was a way to go for the GS to do that?
Yes, please.
Right. What specific lapses do you suspect may have led to this collapse?
In fact, whenever there are rules and regulations or standards, it has to be enforced. When we say enforcement, there should be particular people who make sure others are following those laws and standards. So when we look at the country now, we mentioned that the passage of Post Bill is very important. We have so many regulators. Each of them has an area of focus. If their focus is not on ensuring safety, they will not go and check whether people are safe or not. That is why we are calling on the government that they should expedite action on the Post Bill passage. Once they do that, then we can have a center where we all run to in terms of safety, and we can have a law backing why we should be safe. So if this Post Bill is passed, it will help everybody in the country, not only professional, but every individual.
All right, so do you think that this collapse and all that has come with, how widespread, what picture does it paint about the widespread use of uncompleted buildings for schools and public gatherings in Ghana?
In fact, in the country, we can all attest to the fact that many uncompleted buildings are even occupied by squatters. People travel, they have no place to hide or stay, and these are the places they stay. Those places also breed social vices. People go there to smoke and do all sorts of things, and there are people occupying all these uncompleted. There are a lot of government buildings that have been abandoned. Anytime there is a change in political party, most of the buildings or structures that they put down, no one occupies it, and therefore people take those places as their home. Some even do businesses there. So I think that we need to enforce those regulations that will ban people from occupying such places, because it's not good. We shouldn't wait for the hazard to happen before we take steps.
Doc, in all of this and all that has happened, what immediate action should assemblies take to prevent another incident?
In fact, the assembly, not only the assembly, we are calling also on the Ministry of Works and Housing. Okay, anytime there are such incidences, we realize that the Ministry of Interior and all his team members go around, do investigation, but it shouldn't be left on them alone. There should be some sort of collaboration between the institutions, the ministries, and the regulators, so that, and even professional bodies, so that we can do it well. When they set committees, it should be made up of very experts or experienced people who have a lot of background, multi-facet background. Somebody can be engineer, the same time the person can be a safety practitioner, the same time that person can be energy auditor and understand a lot. So when you get people like this with multi-background in professions, they are able to bring out solutions, and these solutions become sustainable. So we should look at these areas, and when they are forming these committees, it shouldn't be only men. It should also include women who have the background in this area to support for these solutions to work.
Yes.
And apart from putting down recommendations and solutions, there should be people who will ensure this compliance. And indeed, we have them, but they are not empowered. You go to certain places like the Ministry of Employment and Labor Relations, they have the DFI, Department of Inspectorate. They are there, Patrick and Inspectorate. They are supposed to go around and also check some of these things. But if they are not well resourced, they can't go out. They cannot do much, and there are not many also. So we need to do certain things right to keep people safe in the country.
And Doc, you just mentioned we need to do certain things right. We know your institute is also calling for sanctions and all at the end of the day when we're able to identify whose laxity led to this collapse. What form of sanction are you looking at?
In fact, if you're a professional and then you breach the ethics, the standards you are supposed to follow, your license should be taken because you are not serious. You see, so we have a certain code of practice we need to follow. And if you cannot follow, then why are you a professional? So when we do the investigation, we will see the root cause. Who made them go to use that place as a church or school? Which headmaster is there? Who is the owner of that place? I mean, what is happening? These things can be solved.
Now, so in the heart of all of these conversations is also the passage of the Occupational Safety and Health Bill. How soon or how realistically do you think this can be passed and enforced?
In fact, if the government gives its support, it can be done within 3 months. Because already the profiling of the country has been done. So we know the level of safety in the nation already.
Right.
The next step is to take it to Parliament for them to approve it and begin to use it. And this one will make sure industry owners, manufacturers, individuals, teachers, everybody make sure everything they do is safe in the country. Because it has not been passed, anybody at all can manufacture anything and people are buying. You see, meanwhile, there are regulators. But they are not everywhere. If this oath bill comes, then there is somebody to ensure that people are safe in the country.
Doc, thank you for your time and thank you for talking to us. We have been speaking with Dr. Mrs. Miriam Edufo. She is president of GSEP, and GSEP is the Ghana Institute for Safety and Environmental Professionals. This is Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. Let's do more stories and still stay with issues of collapse because residents of Mframa in the Sini West district of the Bono region are reeling from the devastating impact of a violent rainstorm that swept through the community, destroying homes and displacing several families. The storm, accompanied by strong winds and heavy rainfall, tore off roofs and caused widespread destruction to mud houses, leaving many residents homeless. The Member of Parliament, Kwame Chumesiampo, called for help. There's more in this report.
The storm tore off roofs and caused widespread destruction to houses, leaving many residents homeless. Some victims had to flee for safety as their homes collapsed. Affected families are now seeking refuge in nearby schools and with relatives, while others remain stranded. The Member of Parliament for Sini West, Kwame Chumesiampo, called on the National Disaster Management Organization, NADMO, as well as benevolent individuals and institutions to help the victims to prevent further hardship.
It was very sad, very pity. I mean, somebody even died out of that. And it's not good news at all. As an MP, it's above me because the whole community, more than 100 houses, more than that. Almost every house is up, apart from the churches that are left and then the schools that are left that didn't blow off. So that's where they are sleeping now.
According to the MP, the scale of destruction is severe, with many households in desperate need of food, shelter, and basic supplies. Meanwhile, local authorities have begun preliminary assessments to determine the full extent of the damage.
Evelyn Tangmas reports there from the Inframa community. This is Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. Time now for some business. Bismarck Ewisa is standing by.
Hello, good evening and welcome to the business segment on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7 with me, Bismarck. Also coming up tonight, finance and tax analyst urges competitive rates as government returns to the domestic bond market today. Thanks for your company. Now to the details. Financial and tax analyst Nelson Kujokwaweji is calling on government to offer highly competitive interest rates as it prepares to re-enter the domestic bond market today. He warned that a successful return hinges entirely on investor appetite and market realistic pricing. Government re-enters the domestic bond market with a 7-year cedi-denominated issuance today, March 30, 2026, marking its first such move since the 2023 debt restructuring program. This will be the first cedi bond issuance since 2022, following restrictions imposed under the domestic debt exchange program in 2023, which halted new bond issuance after the country's debt default. Government is expected to announce the coupon rate on April 1, with settlement scheduled for April 7, 2026.
We expect some level of readjustment in terms of the price. And so once that is done, a lot more activity will go into the bonds that the government will issue. We also expect the rates to hover around the DDP bond rate. Once that is done, it will serve as an incentive to investors. And so we are keenly watching the market to see how the reintroduction of the bonds into the markets will have a general impact on the Ghana's capital markets.
Investors will be required to bid a minimum of 50,000 cedis, with the offer open to both resident and non-resident participants. Proceeds from the bond are expected to support financing of projects captured in the 2026 budget. 6 institutions, Absa Bank Ghana, Car Bank PLC, FinCap Securities, GCB Bank PLC, One Africa Securities, and the Stanbic Bank Ghana have been appointed as bond market specialists for the issuance. Government says the move is aimed at rebuilding a domestic funding program, managing liquidity, refinancing maturing debts, and restoring confidence in the bond market. And that was a report. Now, on the Ghana Stock Exchange, GSE endured a bruising week as a wave of bearish sentiment swept through the local burs, erasing significant year-to-date gains and dragging down key performance indices. Data released at the close of the trading week reveals a sharp correction in market value driven by a lack of buying pressure and a cautious outlook from both institutional and retail investors.
The Ghana Stock Exchange GSE faced a massive sell-off this week as intensifying bearish sentiment dragged down key indices and erased billions in the market value. The benchmark GSE Composite Index plummeted by 2,701.90 points, causing its year-to-date return to crash from 78.92% to 48.11% in just 1 week. The financial sector also took a hit, with the GSE Financial Stock Index shedding over 1,470 points to end with a year-to-date return of 80.20%. Total market capitalization felt the brunt of the decline, falling by 47.85 billion cedis to close at 245.61 billion cedis. Despite the falling prices, trading activity actually surged. Investors traded 75.08 million shares, nearly double the previous week's volume, valued at 385.56 million cedis. Analysts suggest this notable paradox of high activity during a price drop indicates a rush for liquidity as investors exit positions amid growing market uncertainty.
And that was a 3 Business News Desk report on Ghana Stock Exchange market value dropping by 47.8 billion cedis as investors sell off shares. Now, Executive Director of the Center for Extractives and Development Africa, cedis, Samuel Bequin, has issued a stern warning regarding the structural and governance framework of the Minerals Income Investment Fund, MIF. Bequin argued that the fund's current setup leaves Ghana's economy vulnerable to the inherent volatility of the mining sector. He pointed out a critical flaw in MIF's investment strategy, its narrow concentration within the extractive industry.
In most cases, you set up those funds as a vehicle to receive wealth or resources from a sector, and usually sovereign wealth funds are largely funded by extractives or natural resources, because we all know the risk, the inherent risk with these natural resources, particularly because we are price takers. The volatility means that it is very difficult for you to project or predict what a sector could be. In the last 2 weeks, gold was doing 5,500 compared to today 4,500 or even less. That is a whooping $1,000. So the volatility, our MIF, and if you look at the Norwegian fund, if you look at Botswana, among others, the kind of investment target for those funds are to dive away from that extractive sector, provide opportunity to invest in other sectors that may be growth poles for said countries. But our MIF has been set up to reinvest monies largely in the mining sector. So we are still exposed to that particular volatility.
You heard Executive Director of the Center for Extractives and Development Africa, cedis, Samuel Bequin. Before we go, Ecobank Ghana has announced the appointment of former Managing Director of Stanbic Bank and President of the Ghana Association of Banks, Chief Alhassan-Andani, as its first or new board chairman, effective Thursday, 26 March 2026. According to a notice by Ecobank, his appointment marks a significant milestone for the bank as it continues to strengthen governance, deepen resilience, and consolidate its leadership in Ghana's financial sector. Ecobank in the notice stated that Chief Alhassan-Andani is one of Ghana's most respected and accomplished banking and finance professionals, bringing to Ecobank an exceptional track record of over 36 years of industry experience across corporate investment banking, financial management, strategic leadership, and governance. And that brings us to the end of the business segment on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7 with me, Bismarck Ausa. Oreku Ampofo is here for Sports News. Please stay.
You're still on 3FM. This is Hot Edition 92.7. Oreku Ampofo joins us briefly or shortly for sports. While he does that, let me bring you this update coming from the Nkwanta region. And 4 individuals have been arrested following the resurgence of violent clashes in the Nkwanta South municipality, prompting a swift security response from government. The arrests were confirmed by the OT Regional Minister John Kwajo Japong after an emergency joint meeting between the Regional Security Council RECSEC and the Municipal Security Council MUSIC. According to the minister, one of the suspects has been remanded into custody at the Ketekrachi prison, while the remaining 3 are currently assisting police with ongoing investigations. The latest unrest comes despite several mediation efforts involving leaders from the Adele, Akode, and Chala ethnic groups aimed at resolving long-standing tensions in the area. The minister expressed concern that violence has resurfaced even after sustained dialogue. In response, government has significantly stepped up security presence in the municipality, deploying over 120 police officers alongside more than 150 military personnel to restore calm and prevent further escalation. Authorities say the move is part of efforts to protect lives and property as well as reassure residents and workers within the area. The regional minister urged the public to cooperate and remain calm with security agencies, encouraging residents to report any suspicious activities as efforts continue to stabilize the municipality. The situation remains under close monitoring as security forces intensify operations to maintain peace and prevent further clashes. This is Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. Agric Wampafo is joining us with sports. We know that in some few minutes, the Black Stars is going again in another friendly. Agric will tell us more, and then what Ghanaians, should we go and eat our food now, or we shouldn't eat? Because the last time, the 5-1 was too much. Fortunately, I ate my fufu before the match. So Agric, should we eat our fufu before the match, or we should wait? He has the details shortly.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to the sports segment here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. My name is Agric Wampafo, and we are building up to the big one between Ghana and Germany. The friendly match that kicks off in 45 minutes' time, and we're bringing you live commentary of that on 3FM 92.7 at 6:45. And so you do want to join us for the build-up and for the game as well. In terms of lineups, Otoado has made a couple of changes. Benjamin Asare comes in goal to replace Lawrence Atizigi, and then Kojo Pepra also comes in to replace Fatao Isaaku. Aside that, is the same 9 players who started in Austria in the game against Austria in the 5-1 defeat there. And so it's Benjamin Asare, and then it's a back three of Kojo Pepra, Alexander Jiku, and then Jonas Ajeti. In midfield is Kwesi Sebo, Thomas Partey. Wing backs are Caleb Urenchi, Derek Cohn. Up front is Jordan Ayew behind Prince Kwabena Edu and Antoine Semenyo. Let's head over now to Germany to hear the thoughts of some fans ahead of the game.
My expectation for today's game, it's a very difficult game, but I'm having the hope that Ghana can win the game today. And it's not going to be easy, but 100% Ghana can make it win today.
I'm expecting Ghana to win, but a slim margin win. I'll be very happy if Ghana wins. But then it is what it is. The players are not living up to this expectation.
All right, what we witnessed last Friday, I think Ghanaians are not in a good heart because of what we witnessed, because they think Austria tactics and how they played. Looking at Germany, the strong side right now, I think we still think maybe there will be a defeat, but anything can happen. In football, there's a draw, there's a win, and there's a lose. Anything goes. So I think Ghana still have a position to win something, because Germany hasn't been that big against Ghana when it comes to matches. In every match we do, there's either draw or something, not more marginal goals like 4-1, 5-1 and other stuff. So I think right now maybe Ghana will do some magic.
For a very good game, massive improvement in team building, breakout play and all those things. So I'm hoping, my hopes are high. So the best thing is like a draw. A miracle is a win, but that we are showing solidarity and that we are solid on defense.
Obviously, I hope it's going to be better than the Austria game. I hope it's a draw.
and that would be good for us. Like if we see some new stuff in the team.
I think the result is not the most important thing. I hope to see the potential in the team. You know, if we see the potential, we can have some joy for the World Cup. So I hope for like the best result would be a draw, maybe a win. We don't know. If we put some Jama music, we can pull the spirit and we can win. Maybe. But it will be tough, but I want to see some heart, you know.
So basically, I am just expecting a very good game. We don't expect anything like winning over the Germans because they are not a small team to play with. But I just hope the team play as a team. The team play something better than what they did. And personally, I'll be happy. Even if we lose and we have a very good game, it will give me a very positive confidence ahead of the World Cup. Yeah.
Well, those are the thoughts of some fans ahead of the game between Ghana and Germany, which will be live here on 3FM 92.7. My name is Oreku Ampofo, and that's how we wrap up the sport here.